You then have somebody approach them, whether it's online, through Facebook or whatever, and they start the grooming process. We talked about the grooming thing last week, right? So you have a trafficker or a pedophile grooming this poor parent into believing that, one, it's not illegal, two, you won't get caught, three, there's no harm to the child, and four, you're going to get $50, which will last you a few months.
Good evening, everybody. This is take two, and we're second time's a charm. I'm joined again by Adam Whittington, the founder of Project Rescue Children, who goes in and rescues children from the most horrific situations. And I was just saying before that the last time that I spoke to Adam, I couldn't sleep for a few days because the reality of what he shared with us was just more horrifying than I realised. And for anyone listening who may be triggered by this, just giving you prior warning that we're going to get a little bit deep this evening. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. Hello.
You're welcome. Not a problem. It's a pleasure. Yeah. It's a pleasure to be back on.
Yeah. So you were telling me, we're chatting via Facebook, a story that had come out of Manila and a young girl there. So this thing with webcam, it's really opened up opportunities for pedophiles to move out of their backyard, hasn't it? And move into countries that are vulnerable. Is this quite common across third world countries?
Yeah, it is, and specifically, it's become the new child sex tourism, where even before COVID, it was quite a crazy setup how pedophiles will travel to countries like the Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Kenya, South America, and basically go on holidays and just rape children, predominantly poverty-stricken countries. But what you've got now, this is the virtual reality side of child sex tourism. They're doing it online. And it's 100% safe for the pedophiles. You know, the convictions are next to nothing. It's extremely tough for authorities to even locate where the pedophile, the host, is. So it's a big problem. It's been happening for some time. You know, there's some people put it out there that it's a new thing. Well, it's not a new thing. It's just people are talking about it now. So the more developed countries get, the more people are hearing about it.
So in terms of these third world countries, I get that it's cheaper for them to go there, but in regards to webcam, look, I almost can't articulate it. It's like horrifying. I was watching a video before of an Al Jazeera report, and they were saying that for as little as $10, children can perform sex acts for pedophiles across the globe. So why are they targeting these areas? Is it because it's so cheap for these atrocities to happen?
The number one thing that fuels pedophiles and these type of criminal activities, which is webcam sexual abuse, is poverty. It's poverty. Take away poverty and you'll take away all this. But that's not going to happen. So poverty is the number one reason why pedophiles target the poor. People who are desperate, no food, no nothing. They survive on what they can get, and this is what we come across all the time. And majority of these cases, you do have people in the local villages where these children are. Enticing these children to do this, but predominantly it's a parent. It's a parent who has zero food, money, and you get traffickers coming along, pedophiles coming along. Oh, listen, we'll give you $20 if we do this in a room. Nobody's going to touch your child, in most cases, because it's instructions over the webcam, and these parents are put in these positions. So, okay, easy money, isn't it? Regardless of what happens to the children.
So the children really become a commodity. So as a way, do they pick one child so that the others don't have to suffer as much?
Absolutely. And it's a big problem too, because as I showed you some messages yesterday on from our volunteer in the Philippines, we're really trying to crack into the Philippines too, but go really, really deep. Again, not concentrate on bars and clubs, but go deeper into where these villages where this is thriving. So it's it's a matter of, families have in these cultures too, it's a lot about respect. So a lot of these parents, a lot of the children don't talk because they don't want to put disrespect and shame onto the family. And this is why I showed you in those messages, you have a young girl who's been sexually abused by the father for a number of years, but won't come forward. And the mother has basically disowned her because, well, one, she was doing the same thing years ago to the young child, but it's a matter of bringing shame on the family in the local village. They don't want that. And that is more important to a parent in these situations than helping their kid or stopping the abuse. So you have shame on family overrides the safety of their own child. It's a pretty messed up situation,
It's a horrific situation. I have been to Manila and I've been into some of those slums, and you get into the middle of them and it's like a rabbit warren. And it'd be, I can understand why it'd be really hard for authorities to get in there and, jump and squash these type of things. And then they're also, you've got the gang overlords, whatever you call them, who have such tight control. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of places like the Philippines, do you work with the authorities, when your volunteers hear about these stories, to help them at least get an insight? Because I imagine it must be really hard to get and capture these pedophiles who are sitting back in their lounge rooms in Australia or the US or the UK.
Yeah. Well, this is the situation, and this is why it's going more and more pedophiles are turning to this type of abuse, because honestly, they're 100% pretty much safe. The pedophile, the host, as we call them, they're sitting in a foreign country, whether it's Australia or Germany or anywhere. They're sitting there, and the ones who do get caught, which is it's not a high percentage, is usually the parent selling their child. So you have the parent who's desperate for money selling the child. They're the ones that end up getting prosecuted in their country, as an example, the Philippines. The child gets taken away, but the main host, the pedophile, he's safe. It's so difficult to trace these guys. It's not a matter of they're using their home address as an IP on their computer. They're encrypted. They use VPNs. They use the dark web. Listen, it's extremely tough for a host pedophile on a webcam sexual abuse case to be caught. Pretty much next to nothing, honestly. So the ones who do get caught are the ones trying to get some money, usually the parent, So it's a really messed up situation. And the pedophiles don't care,
No, and I guess the parents, not justifying what they're doing, are so desperate that they're looking for any way out of, their situation, and here's easy money being offered to them.
Well, exactly. Well, the host, which is the pedophile, they'll sell it to whoever's coercing with the child, whether it be a person in the family or a parent, and they'll groom them to say that, listen, nobody's going to touch the child. We just want this to happen, the chances of being caught, there's, and you have to look at the legislation as well. That's another reason why they're going this way, because it's the chances of getting caught is next to nothing, right? If they do get caught, the legislation, well, you have the international legislation of child sexual exploitation. This sex webcam business, sexual abuse, does not fall under that legislation. And the reason is because it's not recorded. It's live streaming, right? Under legislation, it's live streaming. So if you have a live streaming case, it's not being produced, it's not recorded, and it can't be edited. So it doesn't fall under the international or local legislation of being in child sexual exploitation. What it does, it drops it down to a lower level of enticing a child for child pornography. Well, I don't call it child pornography, but that's the legislation. It's child rape. But so then you have the legislation dropping, all because of one word, and that is because it's not recorded. So even the legislation is not fit for live streaming sexual abuse. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is a tough thing. I know when I Googled webcam pedophile into Google and looked at, cases where people had been caught and prosecuted, I was looking at like maybe one a year over the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And
it's nothing. Considering how thriving it is. There was an article not long ago in the Australian, I don't know, SBS or something, and it's I actually wrote a few points down because it was quite interesting. It was like a unique study done by the Australian Institute of Criminology, and they'd done a survey over 13 years from 2006 to 2018, and they'd done a study on they were tracking financial payments to the Philippines, and there was 256, this is in the survey, 256 Australians paid for live stream child rape to watch it. None of those 256 have criminal records within Australia. So we're talking, there was one who was a mum, there was like a gardener, doctor, all different types of professions. And the payments, the financial payments, which was usually, because they keep the payments low, right? So we're talking under $50, because if you start sending payments to a country like that, the authorities can get suspicious. So they keep the payments down, right? So small payments, so it doesn't look suspicious to the authorities. And then, so all those 256 Australians who are watching live sexual abuse in the Philippines, all those payments were linked to people arrested in the Philippines for sexual abuse to children. That's how they've linked it, basically. So, it's a lot of it's connected to the dark web. So, I mean, you have clear evidence of a person in Australia paying for a service, child sexual abuse. 256. There's no mention about what's happened to those 256. But there's clear cases there for 256 people to be arrested by the AFP. But where is it?
It almost feels like
they won't get prosecuted.
No, it's almost a stretch to say they condone what's going on, because this is a human rights issue. We're not just saying this is horrible, this is bad. This is a human rights issue because it's so pervasive and it's impacting so many people. And I can't help but think that, why are they not doing more? Like, we have the technology, don't we, to be able to dig deep. I mean, like, they go after money launderers, but is it because it is just kids and the governments don't see them as important?
Well, a lot of these, I can't really say, I hear both sides of things, but, at the end of the day, to have a case against a paedophile, let's take one of these 256 normal Australians, who have been paying for this. You need a victim, right? You need a victim. Now, these victims over there, they won't talk because they don't want to put shame on the family. So what do you do? So it's like a never-ending circle, It's a really difficult situation, but it's a massive problem. And out of that survey, it turned out to be $1.3 million. Australian dollars, 1.3 million, that these people were paying to watch kids get raped and sexually abused on live streaming. So we're talking not a few dollars here. We're talking, and they're the ones who got, not caught, but they're the ones who were put in the survey. Add another million or two on top of that. For Australians, that's just Australia.
That's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
big
It's
money,
massive money.
and you know, people don't understand how it's a very simple process. It's exactly like I'll try and give your viewers an understanding. You have a pedophile sitting somewhere, and they're on a. Let's take Skype. Well, what we're doing right now, right? We're live streaming, right? What we're doing now is exactly how they do it. So what they do, they have the host, which is the pedophile. Then you have all the viewers, like you guys, which are all pedophiles. Okay. Then you have the trafficker or the parent who's in the room with the child. Now, there are cases as well that teenage children, often women, will be in there. They don't get coerced or trafficked. They're trying to get money. So they think this is a safe way to do things on camera and not be affected. So that's how you have it set up. And then what the host does, like you are the host, what the host does is they get instructions from people on the live feed. So as your followers here are making comments, pedophiles in other countries around the world in the same feed are making requests, and they pay for those requests. So not only does the host get off, the host gets money for this from all the other pedophiles requesting that the child do this, the child do that, or do this to the child, stick this up the child's ass, or vagina or something, or make the child, you know, give the trafficker a blowjob. Or so people, and then all the pedophiles will pay into, you know, a spontaneous account set up for this, and that's how it works. That's how it works. So it's a very, you know, technology is forcing them to, you know, COVID as well is forcing pedophiles to think.
Well, they're just getting more clever, aren't they? And more sneaky. Absolutely. Because, like, you can hop on a plane and, like, if you, I mean, how do we spot these people in our community? I was reading in the news.com, they had, can you spot a pedophile, and here are the warning signs. But as my husband says, you know, like, I probably know a woman who's been sexually abused. But he said, given the numbers of pedophiles that are out there, he said, I probably know one, but it's not like they tell you that they are one. So, like, how pervasive is pedophilia? I mean, like, what numbers are we talking?
It's massive, you know, and they're even trying to make it a movement now. They're trying to, you know, legalize pedophilia. There's a lot of groups out there, you know, trying to make it, you know, like the lesbian gay community. That's what they're trying to do. The numbers, it's you know, I can't say, but it's massive. It's massive, you know.
It's not like you can do a census on them.
No, there's not, you know, and they're in all shapes and sizes. And don't think pedophiles are only women as well. Sorry, only men. There are women pedophiles too. Not as much, but there are. And they're in all different professions, you know, all different shapes and sizes and wealth and, you know, normal middle class people. So it's a question you can't really answer. The numbers are massive. And I would put my left arm on a pedophile being in every community, if not more than one. Absolutely. But will we ever know? No. I mean, and this is why Australia's trying to bring in the child sex register, public register, as America and a couple of other countries have done. So parents and the community are aware of where a registered pedophile is. But these, again, it's not an accurate thing, because they're only registered. You know, you've got millions more who are not registered, who have never been caught, you know.
It's like in Australia, you have to get a blue card if you want to work with children. But if you've never been caught, then how effective is it really? Because you could, you know, unless your name's on a list, they could be anywhere. Like you said, they're anyone.
Yeah, it's true. And funny you say blue card. We did a test on the blue card about a year ago in Australia, right? We applied, two of us applied for the blue card using fake identity. We got it. So the blue card means nothing.
Yeah, well, because if they're not doing background checks.
No,
then
they do
how
nothing.
are they going
It's
to
all
know?
money.
They do.
It's all money.
Yeah.
Yeah. More applications, the better. So we hit up the fair trading people who run the blue card. We got no answer. We got no response. We showed them our fake identity. We showed them the blue cards we eventually got, but they won't reply. So we just advise them to do background checks. So yeah.
So with the work that you do with Project Rescue Children, are you like considered by governments to be an expert and they seek out your opinion, or is this really something that you kind of like do in parallel to however much or little that different governments across the world are doing?
Yeah, listen, like I said in my last interview, we've been communicating. I was communicating with Julie Bishop when she was the foreign minister, and I gave her information on PRC and what we were doing in Cambodia at the time. And she accepted it, acknowledged what we're doing, and said it was a great thing. And then she just went on basically about how the government gives millions of dollars to these countries to fight child exploitation. We're a not-for-profit charity. Governments are not really interested in that, unless you're a government body. They're not really interested. We get a lot of contact from mainstream media wanting to do. We completely turn our back on mainstream media because I've been burnt many times. With the mainstream media, they'll write something, tell you they're going to write this, and then the whole thing's completely different. So we don't accept mainstream media. They're a big problem. But no, we don't. We gather as much information, and we cooperate with the authorities. In a way, we do a lot of their work, especially in foreign countries. These countries, poverty-stricken countries, they don't have much resources, and they don't have the expertise of how to catch and do undercover operations in these countries. So we cooperate as much as we can, when we can, if we can. So it's a big problem.
Absolutely. So this is a big question. How do we stop these webcam pedophiles from
switch off the internet?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. It's a big question. So if you go into these third world countries and switch off the internet, you're effectively hindering them even more. So it seems like the solution is no better than the current situation.
Exactly. And this is why the pedophiles have a field day on live streaming. I'd say the Philippines is probably the epicenter of live streaming for victims. And there's a reason for that, a couple of reasons. And one is they have quite good internet access coverage. And the other reason is they all speak English, right? So take the Philippines and take a country which is way underdeveloped than the Philippines, even though the Philippines is, quite, it's a third world country. So take Kenya or an African country where the internet hasn't really come alive yet. They're way back in 2G or 1G in some places. So what you're going to get, these pedophiles need to target somewhere where it's easy to communicate, easy to transfer money, easy to take payments. And that's why countries like the Philippines is a major attraction for live streaming. Give it another 10, 20 years, maybe 10 years, when countries in Africa are more developed, you watch the explosion of live streaming in those countries. It's going to be thriving. But at the moment, they're not developed enough. So pedophiles won't target that. Instead, they'll go there on their sex holidays and do it in person. Forget about live streaming. They go to Africa and do it in person. Rape children.
So is it better that they can't go there at the moment with COVID? Well, like it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, isn't it? Like, how do you do this every day? Because it'd be like, here's a brick wall that you're banging your head against.
Well, and that's what I keep telling people. The hardest thing in my job is is to raise awareness, to get people to talk about it, but again, not to give up. Oh, we have so many people contacting us, and they'll last a day or two trying raising awareness, and they just get, okay, it's not going anywhere because they can't see any results. So the hardest thing is not to stop. You can't stop. It doesn't matter if we've got 50,000 brick walls in front of us, meaning 50,000 pedophiles. You got to keep going. It doesn't matter how much you get attacked personally. It doesn't matter how much hate stuff gets put about you. It's all a deterrent to try and stop you from helping these kids from pedophiles. Pedophiles is a massive, massive community. I reckon if you put all the pedophiles together from around the world, you have your own country, right? So we're not talking a few, we're talking millions of them. So you just can't give up. You really can't give up. As hard as it is, and as sad as some of the stories are, we just can't give up. We had a great result last Friday morning. We rescued, after an operation been going on for a couple of months, through a tip-off in Myanmar. We rescued 11 children who were being trafficked across the border from Myanmar into Bangladesh. So we rescued the 11 children, and we got 4 traffickers arrested by the Myanmar police. So it's we have our good days, but then we have our bad days where there's nothing happens, and you just want to give up, but we can't.
There was a question from Lisa. It said, is there anything as individuals that we can do? And I wonder if we can maybe break that question down into a few parts, because obviously we can donate money to Project Rescue Children to help you fight the fight. Like, you're on the front lines. This is what you've chosen to do. You're taking it to them. But what else can we do besides talking to you as, Annette and Lisa and Hayley sitting in our homes?
We mentioned this last time, isn't it? It's awareness. It's awareness. Everybody has to keep talking about it. Like today, the 30th of July is the United Nations Trafficking Persons Day. And we've been promoting it for a week and a bit for people to change their profile pictures to 2 images that we've been putting out on our social media on Project Rescue Children. And there's quite a lot who have done it, but then a lot don't. So you can't force people. It's a topic, again, that's really touchy for people to talk about. But those who want to help, it can feel like you've been trying to raise awareness for a week, 2 weeks, and it gets a bit mundane, and I'll give up. And I understand it, because it's a topic that's never going to go away. We can't stop this, but we can't also stop, because this is what the traffickers and pedophiles, the people exploiting children, they want us to stop. So what your viewers can do, as again, immediately, which makes an impact, is raising awareness. You have to do it. It's our only way we can join together, is to raise awareness. And that is talking to your family, friends on social media or barbecues or whatever. And even if you get one extra person to start raising awareness, it's like this. It's all you can really do, besides, donating to us and stuff like that. Sponsor some of our children we have going now. But to make an immediate impact, it's just raising awareness, and it takes a few seconds on social media.
So what does that raising awareness look like? Is it sharing interviews like this? So yeah. I guess everybody who's watching or watches after, if every person shared this, and so last time I think we went out to maybe 15,000 people, and every one of those shared, then we get that message further. So what else can we do to raise awareness?
Well, it's just a matter of supporting, organizations like us, raising awareness. I done a quick survey on my Instagram, my public Instagram this week it was. The question was, do you know what live streaming sexual abuse is? 75% said no. So it's educating. Awareness is also educating, and we need people to be educated, because talking to your friend at the barbecue on social media, educating or raising awareness to that person might just get them to be switched on to something that their child's doing online, or something suspicious in the community. That's what it's all about, educating and awareness. That's all people can do besides directly donating or sponsoring. It's really, you can't go on the streets. And I think I gave the example, it's like an old lady crossing the street. You can immediately help that person, but you can't immediately help children in this situation. It's a long process. And we just ask people to get behind us and raise awareness, donate if you can. That's all you can really do. It's a tough thing.
And I guess for most people that this is outside their realm of attention, or even, like most people, get home from work, they have their dinner, they plop down in front of the telly and they watch Renovation Rescue or MasterChef or Lego Masters or something like that. It's not like that when this does appear in mainstream media, that it's on at the times where people can really go, oh, hang on, I didn't even know that was something out there. So like you mentioned that a lot of people don't know what live sex streaming is. What about things like the term human trafficking? Because I think a lot of people think that human trafficking is, you've taken somebody from Mexico into, the US to be a maid, but it's a lot more insidious than that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's, a lot of people just think about Hollywood movies. And again, just for all your Australian viewers, it's not just happening overseas in Asia or Africa or South America, these things to children. It's in Australia as well. I mean, look at something that nobody even talks about, the Aboriginal communities. You have children being sexually abused and raped in Aborigine communities in Australia every day. Not one thing is being talked about it. Where is the media about it? You see one or two articles, but it's happening in Australia too. And this is why we're trying to tap into we've partnered up with the Wurrumbinda elders, the Indigenous community there, and we're going to start educating and helping, Indigenous children there. As far as human trafficking goes, it covers so many different topics. You have exploitation is so broad. You have, as an example, talking about children, child marriage, child slavery, labor. You have so much compared to just some child being sexually abused. It's a lot of different things. But a big thing which is not really talked about often is child body parts on the black market. Kids get kidnapped, trafficked, and then their body parts are taken and murdered for selling parts on the black market. So it's a gigantic topic. It's not just somebody being taken in a van from one country to another.
Do you think people don't want to know about this because it's just easier to ignore it? Because,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like 100 million%. Absolutely. And it drives me fucking crazy because, as I said, and last week, Ashley Bynes in Australia. Ashley Bynes, I don't know.
Yes.
To be honest, I didn't really know who she was until last week. She contacted me, and great lady. She didn't know much about it either, and she said she'd like to start helping PRC and raising awareness to what's going on, but she didn't know. She didn't even know about PRC. So people either don't want to listen or don't want to hear or don't know about what's going on. So we need people like yourselves to continually raise awareness through social media, interviews. We need people like Ashley Bynes and celebrities to talk about it. Even Liam Neeson in America has just started to talk about human trafficking, in real. So that's what we need. We have to join together. It's not just a Project Rescue Children thing we're going to solve. It's us with everybody behind us, as well as joining with authorities and other NGOs who are into this field. We have to join together. We can't solve this alone.
And well, like we said, it's a human issue.
Yeah. Well,
It'd
the
shit
biggest
me
problem
too.
is nobody wants to talk about it. It is the number one thing, and I said that to Ashley Bynes when we were messaging each other, because she asked me what's the most difficult thing, and I said getting people to talk about it. For us to catch pedophiles and traffickers when we have enough information and intelligence is easy. Okay, it's easy. Talking to two people in the community about what we do, that's a struggle. That's a struggle, and it
I can
shouldn't be
imagine.
like that. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be like that.
I know. I've promoted this interview widely, and it's interesting if I post something about, I don't know, my dog, or a beer that I had on the weekend. It's like, thumbs up, yeah, Annette, that's awesome. But when you post something that is considered taboo, then it's easy for people to go, I'm just going to stick my head in the sand, because if I don't know, then I don't have to do anything about it.
It's crazy. We're not talking about oranges and apples here. We're talking about kids' lives, lives being destroyed forever from being sexually abused or exploited. I got messages this morning from Africa, an African country, asking for the help in another area where the children are all being sold for marriage. Child marriage is massive. And where is the talk about it? All anybody wants to talk about is fucking face masks and toilet paper, right? Come on. There's so much more going on, and we need to get over ourselves, right? And it shits me, people who ignore this topic. It should be the top. It should be on the front page every single day of what's going on. A fucking face mask. Come on. No disrespect to, but let's prioritize, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that we're getting dumber? Like, we've got all of this access to information and knowledge, and you may not want to answer that, but
three words for that. I'll give you an answer right now. Mainstream media. Yeah.
Yeah, it has its moments. I mean, like
you
and I have had a conversation, and my career started in mainstream media, and I there was a front page today that I just went, that's just disgusting what they're doing to,
Yeah. Well,
they're not focusing on the right
stories?
things.
Exactly. I mean, we just came out this week about an amazing lady in Kenya, West Kenya, who where we're expanding as soon as travel restrictions are removed. We're sending a team down there to Kisumu, and it's shocking. It's on the Victorian River, and I mentioned this last time, but we've been researching and speaking to a lady called Mama Jane. I don't know if you've probably seen her on our social media. We've just partnered with her because heroes don't wear capes, right? But Mama Jane is a hero. Honestly, for so many years, this lady who has nothing, she has absolutely nothing. Kids come to her property unannounced, and she takes them in, all of them, all the kids that she has, and she's had up to 30 kids on her farm in 2 small little buildings, dwellings, and all of them have been trafficked, sexual abused. They're all orphans. They have nowhere to go, and they hear about Mama Jane. So they walk, like her farm is like an hour and a half drive from the city of Kisumu. So these kids get there any way they can after hearing about it, and she just takes them in. They have nothing. So we are so excited because part of PRC is to build our own safe houses in the future once we get enough funding. We are not, listen, there's 1 or 2 organizations in the world who do what we do. There's not many, but there's a couple. They have millions of dollars of donations because they've started 10, 15 years before us. So they can afford to do things. We can't just yet. So, but one of our goals is to build safe houses, Project Rescue Children safe houses, to put these kids, to rehabilitate, put them in a safe place. So we're very proud because Mama Jane wants us to partner with her. So we have done that now. And all the kids with her, we've put them on our sponsored child program so people can actually sponsor these children. And we guarantee, 99.9% of your money, your monthly donation to the child goes to the child. Not like these massive billion-dollar organizations around the world where you sponsor a child and they put the money, $30, $40 that you send every month into a pool of everybody's money and to the community. It doesn't go to the children. So we're doing something completely different and completely personalized between PRC and Mama Jane, and that's it. There's no middleman. So yeah, it's an exciting thing, and we're going to start. Actually, I don't sleep much, but I just got some quotes this morning to fix Mama Jane's roofs on the two buildings. So we've had a builder go in there this morning or yesterday and give us 2 quotes. So we're talking like $4,500 to put brand new roofs and new structures on the roofs, frames. But we have to raise that money, right? So so much is going on, and we're also, which I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I don't trust a lot of people. So we have to be very careful who we partner with and stuff. And we've vetted Mama Jane. We've done all checks, and all the children we've done checks on, because we don't want it to be a case of where people donate or sponsor a child and that child's not an orphan, and there's a lot of that going on too. Child orphanage, child tourism, which is another topic in exploitation. So we're very careful, and it's a really exciting time for us and Mama Jane. So we're going to transform our whole farm.
Yeah, all right, people, you can see on the screen, donate to help rescue children, projectrescuechildren.org/donate. Go there and put your money where your mouth is. If you're feeling hopeless, useless, like you can't make a difference, then we have a man sitting right in front of us who is out there fighting the fight, and we can help him to do that. Adam, can I ask you, this is something that comes up a lot, and in light of the what's been happening in Hollywood with Jeffrey Epstein and his girlfriend that was caught, and I can never remember her name, but there's always this Max Gisine or something like that.
Yeah, something funny.
Not important enough for me to remember, but well, it's not, because she's a horrible person.
So it doesn't matter.
She's one of them, yes. So you perpetrate crimes against children, then you don't have a name in my book. But this rumor that goes around that, so many in Hollywood and these, powerful people are pedophiles. Like, do you have any insight into that? Like the rumors that you've heard, or because, like, to me, it's like, is it really? Like, is it really that pervasive, and does it really go that high up?
Yeah, half my inbox are messages or information about this topic. So it's a good question. I'm always very careful what I say, and I don't like to make comments on things I don't really know. So if I'm going to call somebody a pedophile, which I have in public, that person is a pedophile, regardless of what they say. As far as Hollywood goes, I can't say, but I bet my winning hand that there is a lot going on in Hollywood. But for me to give a specific, this person is this or that, I'm not going to do that, because
I wouldn't ask you to do that one because of defamation.
I just think absolutely. When you have wealth, when you have people thinking that they're untouchable by the authorities, I've been doing a little bit of research on Epstein, obviously, and I don't speak about it too much, but absolutely, anybody connected to him needs to be investigated. Anybody, it doesn't matter if you're a prince or the most wealthy man in the world. If you've been connected to him, you must be investigated, because the things I've been finding out about him is horrific, and he's just had free reign for many, many years because of his wealth and his connections. So to answer that, absolutely, I think something's going on. Who, I don't know, but anybody connected to that man or that woman, his girlfriend, needs to be investigated fully. It doesn't matter who they are, and they need to be brought to justice. Again, regardless of who you are or what family you're from. That's probably
It feels to me that there is a lot more awareness out there because, like, let's face, like 2 years ago, I don't think we'd be having this conversation because people would be going, "Oh, you can't talk about that on Facebook Live. That's just not the done thing." So I know now, even just amongst my friends, that this is a topic that we talk about. We're aware that it's happening. But for those of us, because most of us are from Australia, someone's just asked that question: is there child sex trafficking in Australia?
Yeah, it's not as much, but there is sex trafficking. There's all different types of things. It comes under sort of exploitation, right? So we have underage, easy target. Go to a lot of the Asian massage places in Australia, right? You're going to have underage girls there. It's trafficking, sex trafficking, right? They're forced there. Chinese girls, whatever, from Thailand. There it is, right there, straight away. So there is more awareness going on, and it's great to see. But the problem is, people give up, right? They do it for a week, 2 weeks, and they forget about it. You know, it's just something that has to be constantly beating down the door, and it can be a bit, difficult. But it is happening in Australia, and you have communities that are ignored, like the Indigenous communities. A lot of sexual abuse. I don't care what color you are or what you're doing, if you're an alcoholic or druggie or just a doctor or a builder. If you touch a kid sexually, then you need to be held accountable for. And the Australian government is ignoring a lot that's going on in Indigenous communities. I can tell you that for a fact. They've offered millions of dollars in funding for Indigenous communities to fix things. Where is it? It's all bullshit.
A good question.
It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit that the government puts out there with the help of mainstream media to make themselves look good, that they're donating or putting funds up for millions of dollars, and that's it. End of story. So no. But it is happening in Australia.
Well, it sounds like it's happening everywhere. I think where there's children and there's power or there's people with money to take advantage of vulnerable, then it's like that. Many years ago, I watched this horrible horror movie called The Hostel, and it was just it was horrible. I've never watched another one.
It was actually.
It was horrific.
But it's real.
I know, and it's such a reflection on society that we can watch that for entertainment. And then I know I watched it and went, I'm never watching anything like that again because that just seemed too real. Things like Wolf Creek, and it's like, I'm not watching it.
Well, that's all happening in East Europe, eastern parts of Europe. And that's why we work a lot in Romania, which is the epicenter of human trafficking and exploitation in Europe. And that type of movie, Hostel is happening in Romania. It's all shit because Romania's shocking, right? It's so corrupt. The authorities do absolutely nothing. A few weeks ago, the United Nations and America downgraded Romania on the tier level for human trafficking to a very low level, meaning that the country's not doing anything. Within 48 hours, the mainstream media of Romania put out they arrested 4 traffickers or some stupid thing like that. I know for a fact because our partners in Romania are very connected. And all they did, it wasn't human traffickers. They just arrested a couple of pimps off the street, turned the story, mainstream image, as if Romania is now catching traffickers. It's all rubbish. And this is what, people read this and it's so frustrating to know the truth that they're not doing anything, but they're showing in the media that, come on, give me a break.
Yes. So the question, the message there is question everything. Like, don't just
Absolutely.
take, I read someone today, like you might know that, there was a little outbreak in Queensland today from 2 girls who went from Melbourne to Brisbane, and their photos are all over the front page. And I read someone who went, I read in the newspaper that they did this. And I was like,
That's true.
Well,
It's true then, isn't it?
it's got to be gospel, doesn't it?
Oh,
They're just absolutely the worst, and people believe it, and that's the really sad thing, isn't it? That people like go, "Oh, I saw it on a current affair, so
Yeah.
that must be it," and they can
Yeah.
make really bad people look good and good people look bad,
Absolutely.
as you know, you've been a victim of that.
Absolutely. And I did wake up to a few messages about these two coronavirus transporters, whatever you want to call them, and I really switched off because I respect people who are concerned about the coronavirus, but I mean, it's just such a, I don't even want to talk about it, but it's such a misconceiving thing, because you have countries over here in Europe who have all opened up now. Everything's, if somebody gets a new case, there's no panic, there's no anything. But I see over there in Australia, a couple of people get it, and it's like massive country panic. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Because you've got these countries here who have been through it all, they've dealt with it, and then maybe a new couple of cases, but there's no, it's really difficult to see the differences in how countries are dealing with this virus. And I think the mainstream media to put these two people's faces on. I mean, I'm not even going to get involved with it because I know everybody has different opinions, but all I'll say is let's talk about child sexual abuse and live streaming and child rape. Let's put that on the front page, not these two idiots, because they got the flu.
Yeah, let's put there. It should be outraged. Australians outraged over. Well,
where is everybody getting mad? Crazy. Where's all the protests and march and everybody? All children's lives matter and children hashtag. Nothing at all.
There is nothing, and look we live in a world of outrage and offence, and how easy is it for someone to go, I'm offended by what you just said. I've had someone say to me on a post when I was talking about sex trafficking, I'm really offended by that, and I was like, well, you should be, like that. You should be offended by it. It's not something that you go.
That's why the world is so messed up now. You can't say anything these days. It's politically, you got to be politically correct. If you're not politically correct, people don't believe you or want to listen to you. Or it's why the world is so messed up, and it's why a lot of focus is not being put on the right topics like sexual exploitation of children. So it's what do you do? We just have to keep going. But live streaming is a massive $1 million industry, and it's a very tough one to stop. We won't stop it unless every country switched off the internet. But what we have to do is try and make more awareness about the problem, and try and assist the authorities, who a lot of them are not trained or skilled to do this. A lot of the cases that the AFP deal with within Australia of pedophiles, online pedophiles, are usually from tip-offs from America, or there was a recent one, the Russian Interpol office tipped off AFP. It was only last week, to a pedophile, online pedophile. So, we've got to do our best to assist the authorities as well. It's not working against the authority. We need the authorities. So again, we're not anti-police. We need everybody to join together to help children. And that's at the end of the day, kids are our future. And if you turn a blind eye to children being trafficked or raped or used as slaves or labor or whatever, I mean, it's not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. And there's a lot of organisations, like when I went to Manila, I went over with an organisation called Hair Aid, and they go over there into the areas of critical poverty and teach people skills so that they can start their own business or go get employed by somebody. And it's like we need more of that, I think, because if we're going to stop this, then we have to empower the people who are the victims to not be as vulnerable, because they're they're dying and starving and so poor that they have to line their children up as in, because I was reading the other day that, there's like the beauty pageants of these young kids lining up for pedophiles to pick which one they like. People do that because they're desperate. And
Poverty.
it's really, it's really easy to look at them and go, you're a horrible person. But when like I've been there, you look at how these people live and they've got nothing. Well, what's lower than nothing?
That's it. That's the thing, right? And I'm so against all this, so against it. But if you take an hour and you go into one of these little villages who, they live off nothing. There's absolutely no excuse for it. But you've got to understand what they're thinking, right? Because they have absolutely nothing. The kids are starving in some places, starving. No rice or anything, and you then have somebody approach them, whether it's online through Facebook or whatever, and they start the grooming process. We talked about the grooming thing last week, right? So you have a trafficker or a pedophile grooming this poor parent into believing that, 1, it's not illegal, 2, you won't get caught, 3, there's no harm to the child, and 4, you're going to get $50, which will last you a few months. What are you going to do? You can't say until you actually you go into these little huts that they're living in and see what and these pedophiles and these traffickers they're so manipulative that I can understand how some parents fall into the trap of doing this. It's absolutely not
no
a reason, but you've got to take it off, and it comes down to poverty. How do you fix that? You can't.
You can't. Or we can, like Hair Aid, equip people with the skills so that they can take charge of their lives. But how many of those organisations can go in and do something like that?
Well, then again, you've got so many organisations, and I was talking to people in the Philippines yesterday because I've been really wanting to get into the Philippines, but I'm very careful who we go in with. And it's a matter of, okay, this organisation was started, it lasted a year or two, got a lot of donations, and then disappeared. So there's so much going on where I won't say too much, but there's also like you have churches, people connected to the church, right? And we're investigating. I'm not going to say which country, but we'll show you once it's finished. Children sexually abused go to this place to be rehabilitated, and then the person in charge of that center, I'm very careful what words I use here, into that center, and they're being sexually abused at night for food. This person gives the kids food for sexual activities. So here you have abused kids going to a safe place, a business organization set up, only to be abused at night again, and they have nowhere to go. So we're gonna catch this bastard, and when we do, we'll put it out there. But yeah, so you have organizations that you've got to be really careful too. You don't just look at the front website and stuff like this, because you've got to be careful.
Sounds like you've got to do your homework, dig deep.
Well, you do. You really, really do. And this is what we've been learning a lot in the Philippines with our volunteers there. And they'll say, okay, we're going to check this place out to see if we can cooperate with them to put these children into rehabilitation. And it turns out that organization has had dodgy dealings in the past, either with a trafficker or financial gain. So there's a lot of things. That's why I don't sleep.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I do know that a lot of the governments are complicit because they lose their power.
Yeah.
And
when you've got power,
Yeah. Oh, the Philippines government is incredibly corrupt.
Yeah, you've got a lot, and look at Myanmar. We work in Myanmar a lot, and we work with a really, really great organization there, partners, local partners, and they always tell us, Adam, don't put our name out there. With pictures, we have to be very careful because the government, it's like North Korea, right? It's a massive dictatorship. And even local registered, legalized NGOs are petrified of the government, right? So we can't even show who our partners are there because we put pictures of me actually in the center last year when I went there, working with them. But I was told don't identify who the NGO is because they're petrified of the government. So because the government's involved in all this. I mean, how much news do you see about Myanmar besides tourism? You can go there as a tourist. Few people do go there. It's not a massive tourist destination, but it's different if you go away from the tourist scene. It's a horrible, horrible place. And, there's genocide going on and there's children being taken, Bangladesh, China. I talked about it last time about the kids, Myanmar girls being kidnapped into China, trafficked through, made pregnant. The baby gets taken off them, and the Myanmar teenager who had the baby is either killed or thrown back into Myanmar so the Chinese family can have a baby. Mate, this is real stuff. This is not a Hollywood movie. This is real stuff. But you won't hear about it because the Myanmar government, they control the media there. If somebody writes something bad about the Myanmar, you'll be in prison or killed. And that's how it is. And then if you talk to any local person there in the know, they'll tell you the same thing. Don't say nothing on the streets about the military or police or the president and stuff. So
do you have to be careful and circumspect with what you say, like in these type of environments, because it can get back to them?
Yeah.
Because I've watched your face a couple of times and I've gone, he doesn't want to answer that question.
Yeah, well, you've got to be careful. I don't want to end up landing at the airport and disappearing. Same as the volunteers that we have in these countries, we cannot identify them. We can't, and that's for their safety. So we have, as an example, the 11 children we rescued last Friday, they're with our partners now, and they have the facilities to house them and educate them, and they do an amazing job. We can't even give them a plug. We can't even give them a plug because there's so many things that as a person trying to help these kids, it's not a matter of just trying to catch a pedophile. We have to worry about corruption. We have to worry about countries like governments like Myanmar who won't hesitate to throw me in prison if I step out of line or say something bad. And as an example, we're on this subject now, Cambodia, right? There's a really great organization, an American organization helping, unfortunately, just girls. They don't help boys, which is crazy. But they've been there for many years, and they have millions of dollars. It's a church organization. They have millions of dollars of buildings where they've built safe houses for these girls that they help. Last year, the CEO was in the CNN news because it's an American organization, and he said something that the president of Cambodia was not happy with. He gave them, I think it was 7 days. The president gave this organization 7 days to get out of the country, and they were going to seize all of the property, the safe houses, because the CEO said something in line that the president construed that the CEO was saying something negative about Cambodian parents. And it was a topic like I was talking about where parents sell kids, right? So the president wasn't happy with this NGO and told them to get out. But lucky enough, the CEO was forced to go back onto the media and make an apology, and so they're allowed there. And that's one reason why, because we had our goals set on building our first safe house in Cambodia. When we knew about this, we refused. We didn't want such a volatile country where you have another dictator. We didn't want to spend all our donations on $50,000, $100,000 on a safe house, only to be told 48 hours, if we piss them off, 48 hours later or something, a week, to get out of the country. We didn't want that.
No, you would have to have lessons in diplomacy, I think,
You got to be careful. You got to be careful.
biting
Yeah.
your tongue.
Well, you
Absolutely.
do, and unfortunately, sometimes I don't do that, and because I like to speak the truth, and people don't like hearing the truth, so we have to be careful. We have to be careful in countries like Myanmar. We can be more vocal in countries like Australia and stuff, but even then, I've had a few. I've highlighted a few cases that the AFP have been dealing with in Australia as far as kidnapping. Complete bollocks, complete rubbish. But they push it off as, a parent kidnapping their child, when really the case is the parent taking their child to stop the children being sexually abused by the other parent. So, but the AFP. So I've had a few run-ins with the AFP just to tell them what I think, and so again, people don't like hearing the truth.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, we're talking about, here are people trying to protect children, yourself, a parent who's taking their child away from a parent who's sexually abusing them, anything. And we keep saying things like children are our future, and people don't really seem to buy into that. Like, governments are not doing that,
No.
not-for-profits are not doing that, because it comes all back down to money, doesn't it? At the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. Like you said, it's just all greed.
Well, it's happened, like I said, I don't think it's all just happening internationally, outside Australia. I mean, look at all the child abuse, sexual abuse of Australian children on the books of social services and child safety. You have child safety ministers like Di Farmer in Queensland, who hasn't got a clue what child safety is. And I know for a fact, and I've said it before, cases of sexual abuse of children, factual, with so much evidence, crossing her desk, and she ignores it. Doesn't do anything. And then it comes out, in the media, something else when it's not truthful. Like the father, the Aborigine father, Kura, a couple of years ago, was smashed in the media for kidnapping his child for 5-6 years, and he was Australia's biggest and longest running child kidnapper, right? And then he finally he contacted me, actually, because he was being trashed in the Australian media as a kidnapping father, right? The Australian media put him down so much, so he contacted me and showed me everything, and it turns out that we negotiated, especially the family, Indigenous family, we communicated with the AFP, the investigating officers who were dealing with the kidnapping, and it turned out all charges were dropped, and now there's an investigation on the mother because she's part of a paedophile ring, and the girls come forward saying that she was sexually abused by the mother and paedophiles in Queensland, and the AFP completely fucking ignored it, right? But here you have the media. Where is the true story of that? All there is that the father's kidnapping, and now he's made an agreement that the AFP dropped everything. And the AFP wrote to the Queensland police saying, you need to investigate the sexual abuse of this young Aborigine girl, for so many years. And that's where it is now. It's with the QPS to investigate the mother. And who's involved in one of those? Who's involved in in the sexual abuse of this girl? A current serving Queensland police officer. He was one of the ones who sexually abused the girl. So see how the media can really fuck things up, because the father was completely smashed as this big monster, and all he'd done was protect his daughter from pedophiles, which was the mother as well. She had
how
swinging.
Is it? Yeah, how easy is it to spin a story? I mean, I know. I mean, I've worked there. You've been a victim of it. Is that it's so easy for them to use their words and that, Murdoch power to push their own agenda.
Well, there you have the other big case, and it's still going, of Dr. Russell Pridgen, who was a doctor who helped mother hide her daughters, two twins, Everybody knows about it because I've been very outspoken about this case after I've seen all the evidence of abuse. And you have the mainstream media calling it a kidnapping ring, right? The headlines, doctor kidnapping ring. It's bullshit. The two twins were sexually abused by the father for so long. There's been over 13 professional independent reports written on this, the sexual abuse, right? And the media's they're talking about the AFP. I'll tell you what, they're going to have egg on their face with that case, because I can tell you that the mother, and funny enough, 2 weeks ago, the mother's charge of child stealing was dropped by the AFP. So you can see the AFP a little bit nervous now, right? Because they've got no evidence. So all you have but what they're trying to do is make the doctor, and you have a lot of trolls on the internet, on social media, putting down the doctor. And funny enough, those trolls putting down the doctor are pedophiles themselves. So you have a good doctor, a good man who's protected these two children, right? And he's being smashed by the Australian media as a child trafficking kidnapper. Come on, he's a doctor who's just helped out two kids, right?
Yeah.
So the power of media.
But you won't see an apology or...
Well, the mother's such a massive case. It's been in the media so much, right? And then the mother's charges were dropped 2 weeks ago of child stealing, which is the whole case, right? She's a kidnapper to her own kids. Well, her charges were just dropped by the AFP. Where is it, mainstream media? Where isn't that a big important topic in the case?
No, because it's not sensational enough, Adam. We know that, you know.
So listen, it's happening in Australia too, guys. Don't think it's just in other countries.
So when people are reading the paper or listening to mainstream media, is there like any little clues that we can pick up on to, you know, maybe be able to discern the truth of the story? Like, how do you work out what the truth is?
Well, you know, it's a matter of doing your own research. You have to do your own research. And if you don't know if it's true or not, do research. And that's what I do. I really do not believe a thing. Usually, if I read something in the media, which is not often, I'll try and look for the real story, because I know it's bullshit. Listen, I've just been speaking for a couple of months to a New York Times journalist, right? Completely told me this story, this, and this is what he's doing, a story on child kidnappings, you know, child recovery. And, you know, he was so manipulative and I'm going to do this, this is going to be this. And, you know, you watch the story, you watch the bullshit story they're going to come out with, right? And I had a go at him last week because he's used the story of one of the children that we recovered who was kidnapped to Thailand. And the little girl doesn't want to be in the article now, but he's not respecting that, right? So he's going to go ahead with the story anyway. And so this is New York Times, yeah? Good old New York Times in America. We'll see what the article says.
So he's abusing her as much?
Well, he doesn't care. He said, oh, but we've done the story now. The editor has done it all up and it's going to be out in a week. And I said, that's fucking bullshit. This girl does not want to be in your article. And from the start, I told this journalist, dumbass guy, everything we say on record is not on record, right? We're just talking to you because we want to understand what your story is going to be about before we agree. They don't care. Let's see what the story is going to be like, right? And you have this girl now who's the main topic in the story that we recovered from Thailand back to Australia. You watch. He'll spin it. He's going to spin it somehow. You watch. So I don't believe anything. You know, and this is why that's the last. I haven't spoke to the mainstream media for about 2 years, and I thought this guy was going to be decent, but let's see. I believe he won't be.
Yeah, it's hard to, like, with the decimation of the media industry and the propensity for clickbait and you know, sleazy tabloids. And like I remember asking like a fairly well-known journalist a couple of years ago, like, why are we always going with, you know, really bad news? Because I mean, like working in PR, you know, I have hundreds of really good stories that never see the light of day because it doesn't sell. And I guess, that's why they look at,
It's true.
this.
It's absolutely true. And look at the father I was talking about, the Aboriginal girl who took his girl for years within Australia to protect her from the paedophiles, right? And there is factual evidence of it. The headlines were Australia's longest running kidnapper. What? It couldn't be a father, a loving father, helping his daughter from abuse. It can't be like that because it won't sell as much. Longest running kidnapping father sells more than the truth, right?
Yeah, because it's sensational. Of course it's sensational.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be nice if we went back to media, although I don't know whether it ever existed, where it was just the facts? Here's this side, and this is the information so you can make up where you stand. But now we're being fed, this is what you should think. Like we go back to the front page of the Courier Mail today, they were telling everybody, the headline was Enemies of the State. They're telling everyone exactly what to think, and people jumped on it like flies on shit.
Yeah.
It was
like Russia. Oof. It's like Russia, right? I'm in Russia a lot, and same thing there. The media, it's run by the government, and they put out what they want to brainwash Russian people to believe the West is bad or whatever. So, but they need to prioritize, and they need to start putting front page of child trafficking and sexual exploitation, because that's the most important topic as far as I'm concerned in the world. And that's why we concentrate on that and really switch off to me. And that's why it's great to talk to guys like you, Obsessed Hub, because we know it's not going to be edited and cut and some fancy different headline put out there. So it's good we have people like you guys, and that's why it's a pleasure to talk to you, because we know the story is going to get out there. Even if it reaches a few people, it reaches a few people who see facts and not bullshit.
Well, there's our challenge, everybody. Share this video, share it with people, get people talking, start conversations. Even if people look uncomfortable, you might get them thinking and want them to dig a little bit deeper. To help Adam with PRC, the information's on the screen. Donate to help rescue children, projectrescuechildren.org/donate. Anything will help. If we all put $50 in, like what a difference that could make. I'm just going to go around. I'm going to knock on all my neighbours' doors, although they never talk to me. So I don't know why they give me money. But you're all my neighbours. Adam, thank you again so much for your time. I'm sure that I won't sleep again, but, maybe we shouldn't be sleeping. Maybe we really need to be thinking about the ways that we can make a difference and the way that we can help you through donating or through talking more. And we definitely need to have you back on again. So you can count on that.
No problems at all. It's a pleasure. Always is.
Thank you.
I'm happy just to get the stories out there, and even just one or two viewers who wasn't aware of sexual live streaming, now, and that's how it is. It's a difficult thing to stop. It would never stop, and so awareness and education, which is what this is. So it's good. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time.